his voice start falling out hard. My friend, I come long time no see. I choose today to keep your company. I ain't come alone, I walk with the thing. It put down a little bag and start you to sing. A drunk man walk in a graveyard, and to the top of his voice start falling out hard. A drunk man walk in a graveyard, and to the top of his voice start falling out hard. My friend, I come long time no see. I choose today to keep your company. I ain't come alone, I walk with the thing. It put down a little bag and start you to sing. Why did you answer when Mr. Death called me? Why didn't you hide round the bend? Why didn't you smart him the way you just smart me longs to have an end? Sit down on a grave and start to laugh. Put his hand in the bag and take out a half. Well, my friend, I must ask you how you feel, cause it is my turn to break the seal. I always used to warn you about your brain. Open the liquor and start sing again. You were a friend when others came. You were a friend who always knew. You are a friend who never. A drunk man walk in a graveyard, and to the top of his voice start falling out hard. A drunk man walk in a graveyard, and to the top of his voice start falling out hard. My friend, I come long time no see. I choose today to keep your company. I ain't come alone, I walk with the thing. It put down a little bag and start you to sing. Why did you answer when Mr. Death called me? Why didn't you hide round the bend? Why didn't you smart him the way you just smart me longs to have an end? Sit down on a grave and start to laugh. Put his hand in the bag and take out a half. Well, my friend, I must ask you how you feel, cause it is my turn to break the seal. I always used to warn you about your brain. Open the liquor and start sing again. You were a friend when others came. You were a friend who always knew. You are a friend who never spends, but always lying drunk in the end. He take a big drink and call his friend name, then throw another drink and drink again. Maybe I can't tell you how I am happy. Since you're dead and gone and never out of money. He upgrade the bottle and on the rum, then lay down on the grave and start to hum. I do not know, I cannot tell what hate you had to bear, but I do know that one of these days that we will be lying. He get up crying, my friend, it is true. You've done me plenty wrong, but I still miss you. Is I alone at night now left to roam? So I choosing a new road that gon' keep me home. So make right with your maker and please mention me, and he walk out of the ground with a strange melody. A drunk man walk in a graveyard, and to the top of his voice start falling out hard. A drunk man walk in a graveyard, and to the top of his voice start falling out hard. My friend, I come long time no see. I choose today to keep your company. I ain't come alone, I walk with the thing. He put down a little bag and started to sing. Why did you answer when Mr. Death called you? Why didn't you hide round the bend? Why didn't you smart him the way you does smart me longs to have an end? Sit down on a grave and start to laugh. Put your hand in the bag and take out a half. Well, my friend, I must ask you how you feel, cause it is my turn to break the seal. I always used to warn you about your brain. Open the liquor and start sing again. You were a friend when others failed. You were a friend who always knew. You are a friend who never spends, but always lying drunk in the end. He take a big drink and call his friend name, then took another drink and drink again.
This is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm, located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
If you are looking to have your statutory declaration, affidavit of income, identity, damage or lost passport, lost license, tenancy agreement, agreement of settlement, power of attorney, last will and testament, and certification of documents, then you need to visit the Alistair Collins firm, located at the Killian Mall, 162 Lamaha Street in Georgetown, between Camp and Waterloo Street. Alistair Collins is a commissioner of oaths and a justice of the peace. Make certain you visit him or call for more information at 649-6410 or 685-6448 or 503-1451. And there's adequate parking available. Go down to the Alistair Collins firm and have all of your legal issues settled and brought to the fore. Alistair Collins firm. Contact them at Alistair Collins firm.
I'm in the mood, I'm feeling good, I'm feeling hot, I want to run. The feeling exciting, so darling, let's do something. I wanna rub my body on your body, the baby on your body. Let me rub my body on your body. I wanna rub my body on your body. I wanna rub and love up. I wanna rub and kiss up. I wanna rub and jam up.
All right. Hey, guess what? Good evening. I am certain that the operator was just playing around a little with that tune, knowing that it is, well, it's an old tune. You know, we do old things here. And I say we do old things, meaning that we are experienced, right? And so we give you facts. We give you all the information from every angle, right? And we do it in that manner. Good evening to all of you. Thank you for sharing the link. Some folks were complaining earlier. As Guyanese, there's always some sort of complaints, and they're not able to get the link, they're not getting notifications, whatever it is. And I'm hoping that our operators, Josh and Lemon, will look into that at some point in time. But thank you all so much. And good evening to all of you, and welcome to Straight Up. As you noticed on the screen there, that is scrolling at the bottom, that our guest this evening is Nigel Hughes. We're supposed to have Tom Anderson with us, but because of a bad scheduling for Tom, in fact, he is scheduled to be on tomorrow. He is asked to be on tomorrow, but we have asked him to be on Friday instead. So Tom Anderson will be on Friday. Not tonight, but Nigel Hughes is with us this evening. Thank you all so much for sharing the link. We have a packed program, and we have lots of things to talk about. Let me just say good evening to some of you guys. Pam Halls is watching all the way from the west side. Good evening to you, Pam. Good evening to whoever Whiskey Session is. And all the other folks. I like the weird names, when I see Whiskey Session and all these things. Sandra Jones, good evening to you. Melinda Moore. J.R. Crawford is with us, online, that is. Desiree Simons, good evening to you. Lynette Nelson. Darkest John, and every one of you. Erna Albert, and, don't feel any way if I don't call your names. Rhonda Lane, good evening to you, Rhonda. Hope all is well. Maxine Monroe, good evening. All right, so here's what. Lemon, good evening to Lemon as well. Talk to us, Lemon. What's bothering you before Nigel Hughes comes on? What's bothering you tonight, Lemon?
Yeah, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My problem always be
one quick second, Lemon. Are you prepared to show your face this evening or not? Not tonight?
No, not tonight.
I'm sure not tonight.
Because
go ahead. What's bothering you, sir?
Yeah, what thing that bothered me was the government again. My problem is with the government going wrong and propaganda all the time.
Which government?
I look at and I see the mouthpiece. I must call them the critics.
No, we don't talk. This is not a dump site. We don't talk about garbage issues and these sort of things. So we have better things to discuss.
Well, I call it the madman.
No, that's okay, Lemon. We have far better things to discuss. I prefer for us to talk about folks at psychiatric ward and how they can get better treatment, but we're not talking about people, that particular guy. So waste of time, waste of energy. Find something else to talk about, please.
Well, I do not like what the government are doing.
What government? What government?
The install government.
Okay.
The install PPP government.
Yeah, the install regime that has rigged its way into office. Go ahead, talk about them.
Yeah, they just going, and promise, and not delivering. So, I would like the PPP supporters to look at it strongly. I may come out to the community and talk to them myself to let them know the PPP government is lying to them. I will go to the communities and talk to them.
Okay. And when you go to the communities to talk to the PPP support base, what are two things quickly? Because Nigel Hughes will be on in just a couple minutes from now. But what are two things you'd want to talk to, going to the PPP stronghold to talk to them about? Exactly, Lemon.
I will go and talk to them about the sugar estate, the way the government is lying to them, and just think about what you're doing, and think, not because you're Indian, Black, look for the betterment of the country, the better person to run the country, and which is not a PPP government right now.
What else would you talk about? We know that they're lying to their support base about the sugar industry. We know the sugar industry died under the PPP regime. We know they destroyed the sugar estates. We know they've wasted hundreds of millions of dollars, and that has gone into the pockets of their cronies. We know $200+ million wasted on the Skeldon sugar factory. All these things we know. Outside of that, I do think that the sugar workers are aware of the many lies and propaganda by the PPP regime. They should be aware of that by now. But outside of that, what else would you be talking to them about, Lemon?
Well, I be talking to them, the way, come and join the APNU. Listen to what APNU have to say. Don't just listen to the one side of it. Listen to APNU, and then you guys make a decision from there who to vote for the next election. Who's the better party to run the country?
From your standpoint, do you think the coalition is doing enough as an opposition party?
No. I must say no. You're not seeing much of them on the ground, and it's kind of bothering me. That's why I said I may have to go into the community myself to start talking to the people. Let them know what is it.
Okay. So you want to go and talk to the people?
Yes.
All right. It sounds as though to me you are campaigning for something.
No, I'm not campaigning for anything.
You just want to talk to the people.
I just want to talk to the people. Yes.
Yeah.
I will go to Port Morant. I go to Tain, and talk to all of them.
It seems as though you're familiar with a lot of those areas.
Yes, I am. Okay.
Yeah. Is there anything else you would like to say or talk to them about when you go out into the fields before we go?
Because, a lot more, Tim, but I won't not say it on air until I go in there and talk to them, because I don't want the install regime to know what I will be saying to them. To
steal their ideas.
Yes.
Smart enough, Lemon. Anyways, get back in.
I just want to tell my supporters they will see my face. They will see my face soon.
Yeah. Anyways, get back into the studio. Let's see if Nigel Hughes is there, and put him on here, please.
Okay.
Thank you, Lemon.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Okay. Bye. All
right. Lemon there for you guys. Lemon knows what's going on, and Lemon is going to check to see if Mr. Nigel Hughes is with us. He's hurrying up, Lemon that is, to go back into the studio and let us hear what is happening, because we want to hear from Mr. Nigel Hughes. Let's hear from Mr. Nigel Hughes what's happening. Lots of things happening in Guyana, but before Lemon puts Mr. Nigel Hughes on, there's something that caught my attention. There's a state senator that's in Guyana. He may still be there in Guyana. And a state senator, as I've said the other evening, is different from a U.S. senator. State senator from Queens, New York, Mr. Saunders, James Saunders Jr., is currently, or probably he has left, I'm not sure. But he visited Guyana and he met with Aubrey Norton, the leader of the opposition and the leader of the People's National Congress Reform. Look at this photograph. He met with Aubrey Norton, the leader of the opposition, at the leader of the opposition's office. Well, I believe it's Congress Place. All right? Look at this photograph. Well, I got to say, Aubrey is well-dressed. Well-dressed. Congrats, Mr. Norton. But look at the photograph. And there's a reason why I'm saying look at that photograph and then look at, well, there's another photograph with Irfan Ali and the state senator. Not visiting Irfan Ali in his office at all, but they ran into each other on some field, kite flying field. And it's horrible that here it is that a state senator is visiting Guyana and no proper courtesy extended to the state senator to visit any of these guys, whether it's Irfan Ali or Mark Phillips or whomever. at their office. Not at all. They just met at a ball field. But I use this photograph to say that this was properly done, that a courtesy call at the office of the leader of the PNCR, Aubrey Norton, who is leader of the opposition. And Mr. Aubrey Norton did say, I saw on a post, that he had a frank discussion with State Senator Saunders. I am glad that Mr. Norton had that frank discussion, because these guys have to know the truth. They just can't pick up and travel to Guyana and snap photographs with members of the rigged regime and to say that, these guys they've got to do their homework before they go to Guyana. They've got to do it. I've noticed, according to Stabrook News, saying sources are saying that U.S. Secretary of State Blinken to visit in June. Blinken to visit Guyana in June. And look, if this is accurate, and of course I'll let you guys know maybe by tomorrow, but if this is accurate, then Mr. Blinken, Secretary of State Blinken, I am certain will meet with opposition members, will meet with other individuals in society and not just members of the catfish regime. It's not going to happen. So we'll keep an eye on this particular visit if it is accurate. But for now, we can't have this prominent attorney, Nigel Hughes, waiting. We just cannot have him waiting. Let me check some of your comments first before we bring Mr. Nigel Hughes on. I notice a lot of people saying that opposition leader Aubrey Norton is looking nice. Yeah, he's dressing up these days. Okay. We'll probably have Mr. Norton on sometime and ask him if it's Macy's or Bloomingdale's or wherever. But outside of that, we have far more important issues to talk about. And we have with us this evening, no stranger to you guys. He's been with us on several occasions. He has been around for a long, long time on the block. And when I knew Nigel Hughes, Nigel was, he's still Nigel Hughes. He's still Nigel Hughes, but he has been around a long time on the block. Nigel, good evening. How are you, sir?
Mark, good night. Always a pleasure to be with you. Always a pleasure.
I want folks to know that I made contact with you, Mr. Hughes, at the last minute. And you said, look, you dropped whatever it is that you were doing to be on, to accommodate, because I told you my guest was not able to make it this evening, my original guest, and you said that you're willing to come and you're willing to discuss almost anything. But before we start with the questioning, let me thank you much at the last minute to accept my invitation. And let me ask, how have you been?
I've been good, Mark. And you? You know, I always call you Mr. President. How have you been?
And I thank you so much for calling me Mr. President. I accept that. And please allow me to return the favor and call you Mr. Attorney General.
Oh, so you good?
I am great. Thank you, Mr. Hughes. What's it like in Guyana? What's the weather like and everything?
Well, it's been good. We had a good good weather for the entire Easter. I wasn't in Georgetown, but we certainly had excellent weather for most of Easter. Easter Monday was tremendous. The amount of people that were in the seawalls, Guyana really came out on Easter Monday. There was a huge crowd lined all the way up the East Coast. It wasn't just outside of the seawall in Georgetown. I was heading to my Coney on Easter Monday, and the crowd was there all the way up. People really came out. I suppose after COVID and being locked down for so long.
Yeah, you know,
it's a great
Nigel,
occasion for family to come out.
COVID is like a jail sentence. That because during the pandemic, it wasn't easy at all. It wasn't easy for everyone.
Sure.
And I can just imagine how the little ones, the kids in them feel about that. And I have two little ones, of course, a big one too, but they all felt it. And
no, it was bad.
For me, having this opportunity to go outside back again, and I know thousands of people feel the same way. It brought back some memories when I was released from Camp Street and I walked out. It was like, wow. So we all did some sort of time, man. the pandemic time and so
Yeah,
forth.
yeah,
But
it was bad. We lost some good people too, huh?
oh gosh, indeed, indeed, I have lost quite a few family members as well. You know,
Yeah.
it's painful, painful indeed. But what about cost of living in Guyana? Are things really that high?
Yeah, yeah. All the prices have gone up, gas, and of course, once gas goes up, everything goes up, and people are struggling. There's a lot of pressure, certainly for my staff for salary review, and across the board, people are commenting that it's being increasingly difficult to be able to handle what's going on.
Lots of things, Nigel, because if you can say, because you're a prominent lawyer, you're a successful lawyer, and of course you have a lot.
No, 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 not me. No,
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 no, I'm
no,
just
no.
rubbing my hands. I'm not saying, Guyanese are the only set of people know what this means, right? Paisa. But,
Thanks.
I can just imagine how things are there for the small man and woman, so to speak, and how they are
No,
feeling. Yeah.
it's difficult. Very, very difficult.
Nigel, I'm hearing that this is according to Stabrook News. Secretary of State Blinken, Anthony Blinken, U.S. Secretary of State, is expected in Guyana sometime in June. I am almost certain that his visit is not going to be like the previous Secretary of State, who was one-sided. If this is accurate, what would you expect from this visit, and how should this visit be? When I say be, how should it be conducted? Should he meet out with everyone? What's your take?
Mark, I think I agree with you. He clearly ought to meet with everybody, but I think it's the significance of the visit and more than the persons that he meet. So let me make it clear that it's important for him if he wants to get an accurate assessment of the country that he should meet with the key stakeholders. So the president, the leader of the opposition, perhaps the private sector. I'm not sure how long he's coming for. The unions, so that he can get a fair lay of the land in private bilateral discussions. But I think what this signifies, however, is the increasing importance of Guyana as a economically strategic location. I don't want to say ally location, simply because of the size of the fines that continue to be made in relation to the Stabroek block. And the thing about this is that that means our ability to have independence of action may be impacted by the new U.S. Foreign policy here. And we've got to be a lot more careful and strategic in the way we approach not only our international external affairs, but certainly in the way we plan our future, because this is a significant, this is what, in the space of 3 years, we've had both secretaries of state. So this needs to be very carefully analyzed. And of course, we need collectively as a country to be sure about what our plans are going forward. Because if we don't have a plan, then a plan will be made for us. So there's always a plan for us, and we have to be familiar with what the consequences of all the potential outcomes of those plans are.
And I agree with you 100% that Mr. Blinken should meet with all stakeholders and not just meet with individuals who are part of a regime where elections petitions are still pending. What is your take, Mr. Hughes, from a legal standpoint, that such an important matter as elections petition is still lingering somewhere out in the corridors of the courts and not being heard expeditiously?
It's always unfortunate, especially in election petition cases in countries that are as divided as Guyana is, that these things get heard, resolved, and disposed of very quickly. Because not unlike an infected sore, they get worse if they're not treated or if you don't apply the appropriate treatment going forward. So this is a real problem, and I'm hoping that we get this stuff out of the way going forward, because it continues to be a burden on the psyche of most citizens. And of course, it is one of the reasons why we have not yet reached a stage in which there is general acceptance of the outcome of the 2020 elections.
Sad indeed. We're not hearing it. Sluggish. I know you recall in 1997 there was an elections petition that took over 4 years before it was heard, and you know what happened when it was heard.
Yeah, it got vitiated. By the time it got vitiated, it was time for elections anyway.
Time for elections, March of 2001. You think we're heading down the same road as of now with these two elections petitions?
If they're going to ultimately get resolved by the CCJ, yes, we're probably heading there. We already half term. We in 2022. We not quite half term. We almost 2 years into the current regime. So by the time you add another year and a half to that for it to work its way all the way up there on all the aspects of it, maybe we'll be pretty close to similar timing. I think it'd be a little earlier than the last set of election petitions, but certainly, similar kind of timing.
Similar timing, indeed. It's unfair to the people, all of the people, whether they're PPP, PNC, AFC, whatever. It's unfair to the entire country that elections petitions are lingering like that. Nobody seems to be concerned. The PPP, they're no longer asking about SOPs and so forth. They got everything in their hands, but yet, from my standpoint, they are just afraid of the elections petitions to be heard, and we can all conclude why. Speaking of elections petitions and the court, we want to stick with the court for now. We have an acting chancellor, an acting chief justice. We've been hearing that it's time for them to be confirmed and so forth. I'm not sure whether we do have an active judicial, what is it?
Judicial Service Commission.
Judicial Service Commission. But what is your take on getting those two positions confirmed?
Okay, so Mark, let me start off by saying I think both persons who occupy those positions should be confirmed in them, but you never know if somebody's got alternative candidates. There's been a lot of criticism of the fact that they had not been confirmed, and neither was their predecessor confirmed. And I think the most recent commentator on that was the president of the Caribbean Court of Justice. My position on this is that I think it's relatively easy to make a statement that says you should confirm this, or you should at least have the heads of your judiciary confirmed. But the question is, if you remove the current formula, which was agreed back in 2001 or 2000, what are you replacing it with? Because if you're going to replace it where the president makes the choice after he is consulted, and there's no clear definition of what consultation means, then you're back to the old position where you put the members of the judiciary in the very unfortunate position that if they are appointed by a government, especially after a controversial election, they are going to be perceived as beholden to whoever is there. So everybody thinks that there's been deadlock, but the reality is, the acting positions, I don't think has necessarily impaired, other than academically, impaired the independence of the persons that sit in those positions. I am more concerned with what are we putting in place to replace the present system, which will result in the confidence that is required for the appointment of those two people. So we remove the system that says you have to have agreement, or that we now have. What are you putting in place? Are you going back to the old system? The whole point about changing from the old system was that people felt that the candidates that were selected or identified by the president were somewhere or the other the president's man or woman. So they came to a position where you have to have consensus. We don't have the political maturity in Guyana, where if I say I don't like Mark, Mark says graciously, I don't wish to be here. If you can't arrive at a consensus position, and there's somebody else, and we don't have the sort of relationships between, or the relations between the principal political actors in the country that can actually say, well, look, we're not going to play around with the judiciary. Sometimes they vote for us, sometimes they rule in our favor, sometimes they don't. Let us make sure that we get the best candidates, or we identify a pool of candidates who we think all meet the criteria and select one of them. And unfortunately, we just don't live in that sort of society. But I certainly think, from the point of view of the quality of decisions that we get from both of these ladies, they should be confirmed. But the politicals may have a different view.
All right, the politicals may have a different view. I recall a few months back, the current individual who sits there at the Ministry of Legal Affairs, Anil Nandalal, did say that both women should be confirmed, and that was just before the decision was made on a matter, one of the elections petitions matter. Many folks saw that as suspicious. This is not insulting the integrity of any of the either the acting Chief Justice or the Chancellor, but they thought that it was suspicious that just before the decision was rendered, that Anil Nandalal called on the confirmation of both the Chief Justice and the acting Chancellor. So that was months ago. We're back at it again. Is there a Judicial Service Commission, Mr. Hughes? Because that plays a major role.
No, there's no current Judicial Service Commission. I understand that the Parliament, the National Assembly met, and the Appointments Committee, I think, may have recently settled appointments, but at the present moment, no, we don't have a JSC.
So let me ask you this, Mr. Hughes. Let us say on the issue of the Chancellor, whoever sits there as president has to consult with the leader of the opposition. In this situation,
well, it's more than consult. No, he has to get the approval of.
The approval.
Yeah, it's more than consultation. Consultation would have been easy.
Fair enough. I got you. Thank you. So we are going through that process. So let us say that the leader of the opposition gives the nod for the Chancellor to be nominated and says, look, can we get some more candidates for the position of Chief Justice? What happens thereafter?
Well, this is a bit of a negotiation. So I don't think what will happen is there'll be discussions. And if they say the candidates have to go out for Chief Justice, I'm sure the government's pushback to that is going to be, well, then let's have candidates for both positions. Because they're not going to sign off on one and not the other. They're going to attempt to, in their discussions, this is between the leader of the opposition and the president, I think it's going to be treated holistically, and I don't think they'll reach a stage where they may have consensus on the Chancellor, but I don't think that the way the discussions will go, they will allow it to be made public that they have consensus on one and not the other. So I think the discussions on that are going to be quite interesting. Let me put it that way.
Quite interesting indeed, but just break it down for our listeners, the role of the Judicial Service Commission when it comes to the confirmation of the
The Judicial Service Commission doesn't play a role at all in the confirmation of the Chancellor and the Chief Justice. Judicial Service Commission deals with the appointment of other judges, the interviews of potential candidates to become members of the judiciary and the magistracy, and those matters. But insofar as the positions of Chancellor and Chief Justice are concerned, that is a matter for the president
and the leader of the opposition.
Well, and the leader of the opposition. Yes, indeed.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. Nigel Hughes. If you're now joining us, it's 38 minutes after 9 o'clock in beautiful Guyana. Might be different time.
I do want to make this point, though.
Sure.
This system that we have in Guyana is most unfortunate, because what will happen if there's consensus on the Chancellor and then there's a proposal from the leader of the opposition that we put out candidates for the Chief Justice? You may well end up losing the current Chief Justice, who may say, look, I don't want to be in a horse trading race, a political argument, blah, blah, blah. And, you run the risk of losing her candidacy. And you may also run the risk of other good candidates saying, I'm not going to go up there and then be subject to the very nasty and vile political culture that we have in Guyana, so that people, start to accuse me unjustifiably of the most horrendous things. So part of our problem in Guyana is that, the culture that we have created for ourselves does not necessarily make it comfortable for the best candidates to want to serve. And that's a real problem.
You know, we've noticed and this has been uh, the style in the United States, whereas certain folks to hold offices, whether it's the U.S. Supreme Court justices, they have to go through a confirmation hearing. Do you think we in Guyana will ever reach to that point where we get to hear questions being asked by these judges, uh, as to
Well, you know,
their position on a lot of issues?
well, this is what I will say, Mark. Uh, confirmation hearings are useful processes, but they also require a level of maturity in terms of the questioning and examination of the potential candidate. So, if you look at Ms. Jackson's confirmation hearing, you will hear deep. You heard some unfortunate, but you will hear sort of deeper questions about her judicial approach, etc., etc. My fear in Guyana at this particular point of its development is that a confirmation hearing of a judge will allow every Tom, Dick, and Harry to get MP to ask the most ridiculous questions. Did you beat your dog when you were 7? Did you have an affair with somebody? And because our culture is relatively how do I put this? Our culture is such that we get excited at irrelevancies for the particular office. It may well turn into some sort of vaudeville show, where people are trying to get as much information as you can to destroy the character if you don't like the candidate. And that is not something that I think, judicial offices ought to be exposed to at all. But we run the real risk of it in Guyana. Become a bit of like a
So,
culture
in other words,
sensitive.
we're not politically matured, especially the sort of debates we see and we hear from some of them in Parliament. If it's not,
Mark, you just got to look at the National Assembly to know that we're not politically sure. Mature. You just look at the comments that get made. The state. The amount of backchat. Yeah,
I got you.
we're not. We're not.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Ridiculous. I haven't seen or heard that in other parts of the world. Of course, in some parts of the world, we see fist fights and all these things, but it's not as ridiculous in terms of the filthy comments coming out of Guyana's parliament. You are correct. Before we move on to other serious matters, what is your take on this monument?
Mark, I didn't hear what the artist's interpretation was. So I just want to do a comparison. When coffee was first designed by Philip Moore and erected, people didn't quite get it. They thought it didn't look like coffee, and there was a whole host of adverse reactions. But then Mr. Moore came forward and said, look, if you notice the circles, the people, the struggle, there was a relationship between the image that the aspects of the image that you saw and some historical event that took place, or it had a particular meaning. So the first thing that Mr. Moore said is that coffee is not supposed to be a physical representation of the man Kofi, who led that 1763 uprising, and he said this was symbolic, and he gave the explanations for the positions, what he held in one hand. And if you look at coffee, if you go close to it, you will see that the various figures that are imprinted, and each one of them has a significant meaning. I have not had the benefit of knowing either who the artist is that designed this monument, and certainly haven't heard what his explanation is of placing that bird, which seems to be impaled upon some sort of triangular object. It does appear to be curious, but in the absence of getting an explanation of the context in which he thought that this was symbolic, I would hold my comment until then. But I can certainly tell you it is not what you would consider. Let me not go there. Let me hear who the artist is and what his interpretation is for having produced this.
It appears to be curious.
Yeah,
it remains curious. Thank you so much for that explanation. We await the artist. If ever we hear from the individual, I'd like to know the cost of it also, because that is important as well. athletes.
But
Moving
but
on.
but
Go
Mark,
ahead.
I will say this
Sure, sir.
in favor of artists.
Sure.
A lot of you know a lot of the cost of art is not what it appears. It's the thought and the relationship between the art and what it's supposed to symbolize. So the price, somebody may just put a green cross, green mark across a canvas, and it really may have very, very significant um interpretations. And when you hear the context, then you understand why they might have paid for it. And to put it in commercial terms, the swoosh from Nike, you may think that's a very simple symbol, but the reality behind that swoosh is that it's now worth billions of dollars. It identifies immediately Nike products. Just do it. So it depends. Something can become globally iconic, but appear to be very simple. And therefore, if Nike paid $50 million for the swoosh, some kid might say, "Hey, I could have done that." But the reality is, they're making $50 billion every month or whatever it is from the swoosh. So I just put that in context in terms of when you come to discuss price. Mark, I know what your interpretation of this
No, no,
more
no, no.
detailed
I'm
view
just,
is.
I'm moving on now, Nigel. I'm moving on. But thank you so much. Athletes in our beautiful country over the years have been treated shabbily. It doesn't encourage them at all to want to go out there and compete. Uh, a lot of these athletes, they are from, economically depressed communities and all manner of things. They need this sort of help. And in most cases, they just don't get the help from those who are in government at all. And they are left out on their own to go out and beg. I have seen many athletes walk the streets of Georgetown, Berbice, Linden, to beg for money, for either transportation or for food or whatever, to go out of Guyana to represent Guyana. And in this recent Carifta games, I don't know. It's shameful what is coming out of the games. We have lots of athletes who have performed beyond, above and beyond, gold, silver, you name it. They have done their best. But from the information we're getting is that they haven't gotten the respect or the proper treatment from those who are in authority. Your name has been calling. I've heard that you've done a lot of good things, which is what you do over the years. But what is your take on the treatment of these athletes?
Mark, let me start off by saying my understanding is the budget for them to have gone to Jamaica was $6 million. The government gave me $2 or $3 million. So they started off not having the full $6 million. I understand that's probably par for the course, so they would have had to have gone out to raise. My issue with this here is, from the time we got the first gold, I would have expected some sort of very high level government person to have called the athlete, congratulated the athlete, and be inspired by that first gold or first silver with whatever the medal was, to find out, hey, how you guys doing? What's going on here? Can we send more support? By the time you get to the second gold, well, at that stage, Jesus, what our athletes have as training facilities in Guyana compared to the rest of this country, the rest of the Caribbean. We have virtually no international level training facilities, period. Now, you mentioned just now that a lot of the athletes come from economically challenged circumstances. Where is the stadium located? In Lenora, right? So if you're an athlete in Georgetown, you have to find the fare to get to Lenora, to train on an international track, find the fare back to Georgetown. Worse, if you look at the data, most of our really outstanding athletes, or a lot of them, I should say, came from Linden. Linden virtually has zero facilities for athletes. Now, if this young lady who got gold, silver, and bronze did that against particularly Jamaica. Jamaica is a superpower in athletics. Jamaica is not just regional champ. Jamaica is a superpower. Jamaica, for the last 3 Olympics, have consistently produced the fastest men and women on the planet, particularly the women, which means that Jamaican coaches are better than all the other coaches in the world because they have consistently produced the best in the world. So when you have a girl from Guyana that probably hasn't run on an Olympic style track, synthetic or otherwise, doesn't have the level of coaches available like Jamaica has, doesn't have that exposure like Jamaicans do, because Jamaica is full of people, scouts to come down from the United States and England to look at the talent. And she goes there and she beats Jamaica to the extent that they get gold. She gets gold, silver, and bronze. Then you know that you have there an absolutely awesome real talent and real prospect for a medal, possibly a gold medal, with the appropriate support. Now, why would you allow, when you realize that talent is there, because this information was in the news from the time we got our first medal. People on the weekend were telling you how they're looking at the events. Why would you even remotely allow any member of that team, whether at the level of coach, manager, or competitor, to reach the stage where they are worried about food and COVID tests to allow them to leave the island to come back to Guyana? It boggles my mind. So to come back again, athletics, of all the disciplines that they have in the sporting world, is the one that Guyana is most likely to be able to get to the highest level internationally and medal of all those disciplines. Football, we ain't getting anywhere near to the World Cup. There's no way a Guyana team getting any male or female, getting anywhere close to the World Cup in the next 2 or 3 World Cups, maybe 3 if we put the program in place now. It ain't happening in hockey. It ain't happening definitely in cricket. So this is the only opportunity, and everybody knows that the image of a country like Guyana, there you go, that fantastic team, the image of for a country like Guyana of having somebody medal, particularly if it's a gold or a silver, does wonders for your country. Now, why would you not, if this is your best opportunity for doing that, provide the maximum support for these people? Boggles my mind. And why would you give them less than 50% of the budget that they asked for? And even if you didn't want to give them that, but after you heard about their performances before the end of the games, why would you not ensure that they have the best facilities available to them, the best support? Make sure that anything that is likely to distract from their performance is removed from impairing their performance. So they don't have to worry about if we can eat in the last day because the stay got extended, whatever.
This is such an embarrassment. You are correct that those who are in authority, at least a simple phone call to the athletes to say, hey, congratulations, we are proud of you, to give them some sort of incentives or whatever it is upon their return. Jamaica cop, I think, about 45 or 47 gold medals, 45 or 47 compared to Guyana.
Mark, to be fair, Jamaica is like comparing the U.S. economy to Guyana.
Yeah.
Jamaica is a superpower. Now, what I will say is that each of those persons that medaled, especially if you had a Jamaican athlete that did gold, silver, bronze, or 3 golds or whatever, sponsorship and scholarship would have been automatic for her. Because in Jamaica, the next step after you do this is you get your athletic scholarship, you go into university, you maintain both your athletic program and your academic program, and you end up with a Usain Bolt. If Usain Bolt didn't have the national support and didn't have the structures, the athletic support structures like Jamaica had, and didn't have a coach that was able to see that you didn't need to be short and stocky to be a sprinter. You could be tall, increase your strides, and outstride your competitor. That's how come Bolt, did so well. If you don't have coaches and you don't have that support, Bolt would have been where he is. Bolt ended up moving from where he was at sports. He did well at the national sports, and ended up being ambassador for Nike with great endorsements, and went on to be the 2 Olympics or 3 Olympic champions. That is not an easy task, but he then gets all the support. He gets all the contracts, and it makes a difference to the life of that person. And this is all we want for the athletes. All we want is for them to become their best selves. And, not to provide that support where they have delivered 120% is let me not comment.
Mr. Hughes, it reminds me. I just read a comment. I read a comment. Someone is saying that the athletes are back home. It's a
They're
shame.
coming in tonight.
Oh,
They're coming in tonight.
I hope that those who are responsible will rush up to the airport, have some sort of red carpet treatment. Sorry,
Mark, you are what? It's 10 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
We are on your program. And this should have been streamed live. Them arriving, coming into the country, their medals are there. You've done us proud. Let us not get distracted with this whole story about whether somebody had to send money for you. This is what we should be doing for them. This should be live streamed with all the technology, having them come off the plane, have them come off the plane first, and to say thank you. Thank you to those people for having put us on the map to the extent that all the commentators in Jamaica were saying, hey, Guyana, hey, we got to look at Guyana. That's what we should have been watching. You should have been at the airport. I have somebody at the airport live streaming this, because this should have been an event, even though it's Carifta Games.
I have some Jamaican friends out there in Jamaica and even here in the US. They were talking about Guyana, and they were saying that they were shocked, especially in that 1,500-meter race as well. They were shocked. Yeah. They were very impressed by the performances of the Guyanese. But those who are in power, Mr. Hughes, seem not to be impressed. They look, when a particular individual visited Guyana, these folks who are part of this regime, all of them rushed down to the airport to meet a particular individual. All of them rushed down to the airport. Red carpet. Then U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who wanted Trump to have a second term, even though Trump didn't win the elections. Look at what, and from the airport to Georgetown, billboards, all manner of things from Mike Pompeo, but nothing at all for these young athletes. Take a good look at them. And people may just conclude the reason why. I don't know. They may just conclude the reason why. Now let's get to this money business and so forth and the fight.
Mark,
sorry.
I want to say this.
Go ahead, sir.
We need, as a people collectively, to make sure that these athletes get the support going forward. The circumstances under which they have not got support should not deter us. So if the government, for whatever reason, we need to ensure that we find the sponsorship. And if we can't find it here, we need to make sure that we get them to where they can get the best support and sponsorship. So even if it means that we got to get them to Jamaica, get them into a club in Jamaica so they get the support so they can become their best selves, that's what we got to do. Because it is evident that the government's interest in these people is minimal, and that's fine. That's no problem. I hear you. Other people say we need to pressure the government. That's good. But I don't think that we should allow their approach to impair our ability to ensure that these athletes get the best opportunities. And we need to organize independent of the state to ensure that they get sponsorship and support. That's, to me, is the best commitment we can give them, because we know that it's what the position and approach is from the state. So there's no point crying over it. We know what it is. I mean, every day I hear people saying, "Oh my God, we know what it is." It's not as if this is not what we know what the position is. So what's the next step? The next step is let us see how we can use our resources to make sure that they get the best possible opportunity so they become their best selves in the athletic world. And if that means that they got to go to camps in Jamaica, and we got to try and find ways in which we can use our contacts to find support, to find scholarships, to contribute the best way we can, we got to do that. Because we know what time of the day it is in Guyana. And so we need to do that so that these kids don't come back and think, despite the fact I've done so well, oh God, I'm walking into a controversy about whether the government sent money, they didn't send money, whether some private individual sent it. We need to say to them, you have done fantastically well, and we will use our best efforts to see how we can take you to the next stage.
You know, Nigel, this is not just a matter under this regime. Other regimes have treated athletes, in my opinion, in a way that they ought not to have been treated. I recall that there were about 15 or 20 athletes during the last government. And these athletes were supposed to have gone to represent Guyana at the Penn State Relay. The Jamaicans were excited to have them. And at that time, the Jamaicans did more for the Guyanese athletes who represented Guyana. And I you know, it's shameful. I don't even want to say more, but those athletes, you know, at the last minute, some of them didn't even get their visas. Some of them couldn't even travel out. And Nigel, I don't want to personalize this, but I just dropped whatever I did, called up a few businesses. I believe you were one of them who contributed financially. They got their air tickets, a major discount through Fly Jamaica. They went to the Penn State Relay, and they represented Guyana. It's sad that even those who were in power, even under this questionable regime or even under the previous regime, didn't focus much on our athletes. So it seemed to be a something that when they're in office, they just don't give a damn about our athletes.
But you see, Mark, if I can come back to you on that.
Sure.
Given the fact that what you have said consistently, certainly in the last 20, 30 years, that there has been a lack of interest in athletics. Athletics is real major money. We need to find a way outside of the government, clearly, because they're not interested. You've just said previous governments may not have been interested either. To find a way so that the sponsors internationally see the potential from early. So somebody sees that girl, they would have had a scout there, says, hey, we want her. We can brand this girl and plan her way, just like how you do with the music artist, and we can plan her way to stardom. And she will get there, or he will get there, irrespective of the support or lack of support by the state. And trust me, the day one of them, just one, makes it, the rest will get the picture. And all we have to do is to make sure that we make this business attractive for people outside of Guyana, because it's clear that the environment in Guyana, nobody seems to be interested. So and all it takes is a little bit of planning to make sure that happens. Or if we can't get the scouts here immediately, we need to put them in a position where the scouts see them. All you need is one success. We need one Usain Bolt. We need one of that girl that just won the 3 medals, and she makes it. And her life is transformed, and her family's life is transformed. She gets the appropriate financial managers to manage the money that she clearly will get. And then that's it. Look at what Rihanna has done. And she's not an athlete, she's a musician for Barbados. Imagine just one person. And we have this girl with raw talent. You know, it's that's what it, and my position is, we know, like you have said, what the position of the state is to sports, particularly athletics. Let us not cry over that. Let us take note and say, we know where you are, and let us find alternative avenues to be able to ensure that they make it there. And they will do Guyana proud.
They will, even if they bring 4th or 5th or whatever.
Absolutely.
You know, my heart just goes out to those athletes. Time and time again, we're always at the same level, regardless of who is in office, but more so under this PPP regime, more so under the PPP regime, right? But you seem to be coming to the rescue of a lot of people, a lot of athletes, and you know, I've called you on numerous occasions. You came to the rescue of individuals. I recall there was a young lady who visited Guyana, got into all of the Ivy League schools, and then just didn't want to waive the taxes on a young lady visiting Guyana. Got into all of the Ivy League colleges, universities in the US. She's coming to Guyana to visit schools, to speak to young people, to encourage young people, and to waive the taxes. The then regime said, no, it can't happen. But who came to rescue to pay off those taxes? It was Nigel Hughes. Thank you so much, Nigel, for all that you do. Not only for the athletes.
You're kind. Mark, I just beg you, this is not a Nigel Hughes issue, and I don't want to detract remotely.
No,
I'm
it's
already
not a Nigel Hughes issue,
no,
but I
no.
gotta say thank you.
This is
Yep.
I know, and I appreciate that. I deeply appreciate that. But I don't want when these kids arrive here tonight or for the rest of the week that every time we celebrate them, somebody says, "Hey, they had a problem with Hughes." I don't want to be close to that. This here is their moment, and they should not be distracted by the foolishness that has happened at all. I do that because the ancestors using me. It'll be you tomorrow, somebody else the day after. It doesn't matter which instrument gets used. The fact is, it gets delivered to the target.
And thank you so much. Now, you are correct. The athletes should not be caught up in silly political games, especially over little what you call COVID-19 tests and who paid and who didn't pay. I can't be part of a government, or I cannot be the minister of sports or whatever. I will go all out for the athletes to go and represent the country, whether they're boxers, whether they're cricketers, whether they're these sort of track and field, all manner of things. Take politics out of it, man. Take politics out of it. You think we're going to ever overcome this sort of mentality?
I think aspects of our society will. I don't think everybody's going to get caught in this foolishness that goes on. And the good thing about success is that success inspires and breeds more success. So all we want is some little athlete to get out there, make it on the world stage, get the sponsorship, make some money, change the lives of their family, and other people will see that that's how it can happen. So my thing is, don't get distracted by the fact that the government doesn't support you. There's a given. That's like, waking up and, people don't like it. People don't like you, period. That's all right. You live with that. You take that to your advantage and you go on. Mark, you're the best example. They lock you up for 5 years, brother. 5 years. You ain't come out and cry and say, "Oh my God, I've been in jail for 5 years. Nobody loved me, blah, blah, blah." Get up and keep going.
Thank you. Get up and keep going, indeed. And as we look at these athletes, we want to salute them. And if these folks in the regime ain't going to do anything for them, maybe others can do something. I know folks like you, Nigel, and others will ensure that these people get proper treatment. And I don't know, man. It's so sad. These folks should have been in Parliament as well. The next sitting at the Parliament, they should have been in there. All of them should be given keys to the city. City of Georgetown. I'm giving these, Nigel. Giving these guys.
I got a question for you. You want to carry those kids to Parliament for somebody to say, "Use a dildo"? You serious? You really want to expose them young girls to that? You want to put them in the middle of that nasty, vile place you call Parliament, where people cussing each other on both sides for them to do what? Imagine if you are a young athlete, you just won these things, and you see these people carrying on like that. You really want to take them to the National Assembly?
It probably will teach me to run faster. So
actually, that might be the incentive, brother.
Key to the city. Give them something. They got to get something, man. They got to get something.
Oh, for me, I think, I don't know what circumstances they come from. They've done well. They should be heading to things like getting a house. We got how many thousand lots of houses we're giving out? Give them people so at least their parents don't have to stress that if they already have it. Give them some other level. For me, the most important thing is they get athletic scholarships. They go off to great colleges that will support both their academic and athletic development so that they become their best selves.
These athletes, all of these athletes are assets now, and there are universities that would love them. When you look at the performance of all of them, yes, universities outside of Guyana would love them. But when you look at how this young lady performed in that 1500,
awesome.
She was, awesome. And then when she gets it, when universities want to grab her now to have her be a part of their university, then you're going to hear those who have neglected these athletes go, "Oh, we are proud of her," or "We are proud of him." The question is, what have they done? Absolutely nothing. Nigel, again, thank you so much for what you do. And let us say salute to these athletes. They have performed exceedingly well out in Jamaica.
Mark, I just want to give a shout out to, it got to be the coaches as well, because the athletes didn't do it by themselves. You got to give a shout out to the coaches because it couldn't have been easy taking these 13 young people out with less than half the budget or just about half your budget and, delivering. And it's not as if you took athletes who had the best facilities. I don't even want to talk shop, but I'll refer to two incidents that I have learned subject to confirmation. Two of the best sprinters or better sprinters who should have been in the relay team got left behind in Guyana because they didn't have the money to carry them. So guess what we do? We, the Guyana team, then use two high jumpers to run in the relay against people like Jamaica and Bahamas. And we bring last. Of course, how are you going to take a high jumper to run in a sprint or whatever relay it was? It's unbelievable. You only saw 3 adult people there. So clearly there is no physiotherapist. You don't have the experts. You can imagine the Jamaican team probably must be 5, 6 physiotherapists. Because what happens when they get injured? What happens when, their muscles got a little strained? Athletics is like Formula One. So you're talking about 3 people who took these 13 people with absolutely no borderline basic support that's required for the lowest level of athletic competition. And they took what they had. They took the lemons they had and made the best lemonade. They brought 2 golds and 4 silvers. Seriously? I mean, you don't see any physiotherapist standing there. You don't see any doctor for the thing. You don't even see any psychological coach who will deal with any depressions, injuries. Somebody gets injured, they can't run, or they didn't do as well as they thought and they got another competition. We don't have, and that's standard stuff. So people don't understand how fantastic this performance was with virtually nothing that they have. Nothing. These people had, other than the 3 coaches, that's it. They don't even have the colors on the uniform. This is, I'm sorry. Just allow me to say this because this is what triggered this is what triggered the reason I did what I did. I couldn't believe that in a country that now has more than 13 billion barrels at its most conservative estimate of oil, that we can't support the full budget, even after we heard how well they had done for these kids. 13 billion barrels, even at $20 a barrel, and we could only give them $3 million out of a $6 million budget. And even after we heard about the first gold medal, we still didn't say, hey, we onto something good. Let's make sure these kids are okay.
Well, it didn't happen. We're not surprised that it didn't happen. Most of us can understand why it didn't happen, but we are not surprised at all. Look at these athletes, the coaches, look at the athletes again, and we understand why they're being treated in this manner. But like you've said, not because those who are in authority are ignoring these athletes, that they ought to be ignored. They're businesses, there are other people who will ensure that they get whatever sort of reward they deserve. And I know you, Nigel, you will ensure that happens as well. Again, thank you so much for what you've done for those athletes. Thank you so much for what you continue to do. And don't be distracted by the naysayers. There will be naysayers. And those who are the naysayers, check their track record. What have they done? Absolutely nothing. Before we go, Mr. Hughes, I want to bring up this particular subject. Speaking of the NRF board, these lady and gentlemen, Mr. Joe Singh is the retired General Joe Singh is the chairman of the board. What is your take on this, sir?
Mark, what's so tragic about this is that, again, not a single recommendation from the other side of the house was taken into account. Now, these people here may all be very capable, but they embark upon a role in which they do not enjoy the support of half, the process does not enjoy the support of half the population. So they start off at a major disadvantage. They don't have that confidence because the process by which they ended up where they ended up, even even if they are qualified, has been so flawed, and there has been such disregard for any other view than that of the government, because each and every nominee there is a government nominee. So what do you think is going to happen? There is going to be a natural resistance to the board, and therefore they could be the most competent individuals. The reality is, in Guyana's context, they just don't support half. They don't have the support of half the board and half the population, and they are going to be making decisions on our natural resources. So, we continue to well, not even shoot ourselves in our feet. We have no feet because we've shot ourselves in our feet so often. We continue to be impaired in the way we go forward.
Don't know what to say at all. You have there the member of the Private Sector Commission, Mr. Duki. Lots of people are not surprised, but who does he represent? Then you have Mr. Dunstan Barrow, the same thing. Then you have Carlin Rodriguez Burkett. I don't know. And then you have a guy who probably has never lived in Guyana, visited Guyana maybe once, twice, or I don't know. And this is not personally attacking him. Mr. Lamy, a politician out in the UK, he's also on the board. I just don't know. I don't know what to say, Mr. Nigel Hughes. I just don't know what to say at all. Closing remarks, sir.
You're not surprised? Are you surprised?
No, I'm not surprised at all. Closing remark.
But my question to you, which is a closing remark. So why do we continue to be here surprised? Why don't we move to the next step and say what it is that we are going to do? Because we can't continue to be surprised if you know it's happening. It's not a surprise. What's the next step? Mark, you're not normally silent. What happened?
No, I'm not. I'm just wondering what's the next step, because I honestly do believe, though, Mr. Hughes, that we spend a lot of time. I noticed some of the folks who are part of the opposition spend a lot of time on inconsequential matters, minor matters, dabbling in stuff that will drain our energy, about madman issues and all these different things. And we are missing the bigger picture. The bigger picture is Guyana is being hijacked. Hundreds of millions of dollars being wasted, possibly billions of dollars going into the hands of people who just don't give a damn. But yet we're fighting over small matters every day, small matters. We got to move away from the small matters and start dabbling with the big issues at hand. Nigel, as always, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. But your closing remarks, though, please.
No, my closing remark is, what's the next step? We can't continue to say, oh my God, I can't believe the government did this. Oh my God, I can't. We know that there is nothing that has happened in Guyana for the last 15 years that none of us did not anticipate. Absolutely nothing. And we continue to do the same thing every day, and somehow it's almost as if you're playing for a miracle, expect to move from where you are. That's all I gotta say, brother.
I forgot one more thing before we go. These chaps are to meet according to this. Suddenly is a breaking news. Mr. Ali to meet with opposition leader in 2 weeks. Anything fruitful you think will come out of that meeting, and what would be your advice to anybody?
I wouldn't be presumptuous enough to offer advice to anybody. I'm not a political analyst.
You do a lot of pro bono work.
No. But what I will say is that you may get. I don't know. Mark, I am always reluctant to encourage people to feel hopeful when it's not going to happen. They probably make some comments about go to Guyana, we'll see how we go. But I don't expect anything to change our circumstances, unfortunately. Nothing. So I don't want to be part of any encouragement or for people to be hopeful. I don't see that happening.
Thank you so much for your time. And as always, God bless you and your family. Give my regards to your
Thank you.
better half.
Thank you, Mark, and be blessed. And thank you very much for having hosted me.
Thank you so much, Nigel. Appreciate it.
Good.
All right, Nigel Hughes for you guys. Getting to the bottom of a lot of things. We will be back tomorrow, right here. But on Thursday, Tom Anderson will be with us on Thursday. I'm sorry, on Friday. Tom Anderson. Again, we heard that the athletes probably either they have already landed in Guyana. It's a shame. This regime doesn't care. Take a look at them again. Take a look at all of them. Look at the beautiful smiles. They're happy. They've made us all proud. But the regime doesn't care. They're going to post some receipt or some manner of dotishness about, they helped out with, COVID-19 test, money for COVID-19, all manner of silly things. Shame on the PPP regime. Shame on them. Shame on Ramson. But watch them tomorrow. Watch what they're going to do tomorrow. They're going to rush out and they're going to say they're going to offer some scholarships and say they're going to give out some hampers to these young people. And they're going to run to their friends' stores and they're going to buy a couple of hampers. And watch, we might hear about some house lots. And then we're going to hear these things belatedly. I don't know. Just watch what they're going to do. They're not going to give those athletes the red carpet like they give this guy who was Secretary of State and visited Guyana as though Jesus Christ just dropped down from the sky and everybody just stopped what they were doing. And they put up big billboards and all manner of things. They remove speed bumps from the road. They clean the trenches. They chase away all the other kinds of fishes, the hassa, the tilapia, the huri, and all they wanted to show this guy that was existing in Guyana is catfish. Red carpet. The police force dropped whatever they were doing to ensure that hundreds of them were assigned to this guy who doesn't believe in democracy, who wanted to overturn rigged elections in the United States of America. Oh, yes, but they gave him a red carpet. For the athletes, who all of us should be proud of, 10 times more than this guy. This guy doesn't care about us. He doesn't give a damn about Guyana. He's concerned about oil and ensuring that a regime in Guyana that rigged its way into office and bullied the people them in the coalition to be out of office. They give him the red carpet and give these athletes who represented Guyana, who put Guyana on the map, give them nothing. Look at this athlete. She got gold. You think there are big companies in Guyana who will put her on billboards? No, I'll be surprised if they put her on billboards. Look at her. Her ethnicity. They're not going to put her on billboards. They're not. I hope all of these athletes, put politics aside, they need to be congratulated. I hope all of them will be invited by the leader of the opposition to shake their hands and congratulate every one of them. I hope the mayor of Georgetown will invite them and give them the key to the city. Every one of them, including the coaches, key to the city. And if some of them are from Linden or Berbice, New Amsterdam, Rose Hall, the mayors in those areas should give them the key to the city as well. AGDA, I don't know, I don't hear much about AGDA, but AGDA should give all of them scholarships to the University of Guyana, those who want to attend the University of Guyana. But if they have offers to attend universities, maybe in the US or other places, they should go. I don't know. Shame on the PPP regime. Shame on them. Shame. The director of sports, shame on him, Steve Nimval. Shame on you, Steve Nimval. The minister of sports, shame on you, Little Ramson. Shame. Ramson just wants to go around into certain communities and give bully and folks with questionable backgrounds and all manner of things. It's not going to work this time, Ramson. It's just not going to work. I've got to go. I've got to go. Congrats to the athletes. Congrats to all of them. They deserve a medal each. They deserve some sort of proper recognition. We can't depend on the regime to do it. But watch them, those in the regime, watch them run belatedly to do something. Just watch them. Watch them. Shame. And I'm looking at some of your comments. Shame on the regime. Shame on them. Look at all of them. And you know why? Because they feel that these athletes don't deserve anything. They don't deserve a piece of land because the lands must be given to those in the private sector commission and all their friends and cronies, questionable businessmen and all manner of things. You go to regatta and you see helicopter just flying over hundreds of people. What sort of country are we living in? What sort of slackness is that? Because you have wealth, regardless of how the wealth came, that every day you're going to show off your wealth and put other people's lives at risk. I don't know. I've got to go. I've got to go. I'll be back tomorrow, same place, same time. But before we go, understand how the country's running. This is Air Finale. He sits there at office of the president, pomposetting as the president of Guyana. Can you guys tell me he's holding something there? It's not a kite. Something on that leash. Oh, let me leave my namesake alone. Let me leave my namesake alone at the end of that leash. Let me leave my namesake alone. Let me leave my namesake alone. Shame on the regime. Shame on them. Well, somebody's saying shame on Kashif and was it Kashif? Kashif and these guys don't. You think they care? They're not concerned about people. Them guys basically, however they can grab and get contracts and all these manner of things, that's all they're bothered about. Look at the end. Look at that leash. Look what's there. You know? We know who's at the end there, right? And it's probably my namesake. I don't want to call my namesake name at all. I don't want to. Or it could be anything. It could be anything. It could be anything at the end there. Anything. And I really do mean anything. My name is Mark Benja. Thank you all for tuning in. Be back tomorrow. Same place, same time. God bless you all. And God bless our beautiful country.
So, this is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington law firm located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
Go This is Trini Devil, the rude boy. Huh? I just want to say good night to everybody in the house tonight. And it's so nice to see all the mothers in the house and all they looking very nice. I must say, nice to have all the mothers, and I wish you all a good Mother's Night. All the fathers, all the wait for Father's Day, you know. But all the mothers have a good Mother's Night. Two things and come back in the party again. All right? I'm feeling rude, I'm feeling hot, I want to run. The feeling exciting, so darling, let's do something. I wanna rub my body on your body. Let me rub my body on your body. I wanna rub and love them, rub and get some, rub and jam up, rub and rub them. I wanna rub my body on your body. Let me rub my body on your body. I just get paid. I want to play. The vibe just right. I wanna hug up tight. No time to waste. I wanna work my ways. So go on face. Give me a taste. I wanna rub my body on your body. Let me rub my body on your body. I wanna rub and love up, rub and kiss up, rub and jam up, rub and rub up. I wanna rub my body on your body. Let me rub my body on your